Coming up on UGTV, Board of Commission meeting of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
Good evening, everyone. I'm calling this meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Roll call. Bynum. Here. Walker. Townsend. Here. McKiernan. Here. Mugia. Here. Johnson. Here. Kane. Here. Markley. Here. Walters. Philbrook. Here. Holland.
Here. This evening, the invocation is being given by Reverend Mike May of St. Luke's Lutheran Church. We would ask that you please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty Father, strong to save, we are here tonight to guide and govern this municipality, to steward carefully its rich heritage, the wealth of the talent and creative energy of its diverse populations. Such remembering of your generous blessing brings us joy and confidence to move forward together. But we are also grieved and torn. We go forward heavy-hearted by the murder of Brad Lancaster precisely because he was a public servant. Be with his beloved wife, children, and all those who mourn him. Be with his colleagues who miss his presence in their work of law enforcement and protecting the public. We lament as well our futile efforts to move effectively against the causes of violence that shred the lives of our fellow citizens. Forgive us of disillusionment and discouragement, and revive us in working together to create a community capable of fostering people of hope. In the midst of severe and dangerous weather tonight, protect those endangered by wind and water and utility accidents. Watch over all first responders who stand ready to rescue and protect and repair. Be with those who are threatened with loss of life or property. Above all, form us in the task here tonight that we may be a people worthy of the great privileges and blessings bestowed upon us as citizens together. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reverend, thank you very much for being here tonight. I appreciated the prayer on behalf of the detective and his family. I have had a request by Commissioner Kane that we have a moment of silence in honor of Detective Lancaster. If you would honor that with me, let's do that now. Lord, we offer this silent prayer in your holy name. Amen. Thank you. I'll ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a blue sheet has been distributed. Under Section 7, the Planning and Zoning Consent Agenda, we have a miscellaneous new item. It's a rezoning ordinance number 3109. Section 10, Non-Planning Consent Agenda, new item number 3, which will be a plaque for the McKenzie Acres number 4. Under the Commissioner's agenda, we have a new item. It's a discussion of the 2016 Hollywood Schlitterbahn Vacation Village Grant Fund distribution.
All right, thank you very much. Tonight we have two distinct parts of our meeting. The planning and zoning portion will be handled first and then followed by our regular commission meeting. We always begin our planning and zoning portions with the clerk reading a statement that is required by law. And after that statement, we'll read the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda. Madam Clerk.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor Mark Holland, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District 1, Commissioner Hal Walker, at-large District 2, is unable to be here, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann Mugia, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson, Jr., District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has 3 options. Number 1, we can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Number 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with the statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the Planning and Zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list on the agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance for those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact with proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda.
Thank you. I will disclose I've had contact with proponents on A1, C1, and D1. Commissioner McKiernan.
On the non-consent agenda, I've had contact with proponents and opponents of SP 2016-15.
Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had contact with proponents of SP 2016-43.
Commissioner Bynum.
I have had contact with proponents and opponents of A1, number 3109, change of zone.
All right. That brings us now to the reading of the items on the consent agenda.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone application, item 1, number 3109, Jonathan Stites with Seafried Properties. Change of zone from R1 Single Family and MP1 Planned Light Industrial Districts to MP1 Planned Light Industrial District for an industrial park at 6925 Riverview Avenue, recommended for approval. Item 2, number 3110, Scott Kainsdorf with Kangings Built in Restoration. Change of zone from R1B Single Family District to CP1 Planned Limited Business District for an existing office building at 2500 West 43rd Avenue, recommended for approval. Special use permit applications, item number 1, SP 2016-31, Lolita Gibson with Samuki, Howard with Carter Road Child Development Center. Special use permit for Child Development Center at 1316 Armstrong Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2016-41, Mark Gambrill, MT&G, Home Occupation Special Use Permit for firearm sales at 11101 Hubbard Road, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 3, SP 2016-42, Luke Kush, renewal of a special use permit for a parking lot at 1327 Minnesota Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 4, SP 2015-43, Faith Thicklin, special use permit for electric sign at 864 Split Log Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 5, SP 2016-44, David Watson for 5252 Speaker Road LLC, special use permit for the maintenance and servicing facility for the trucks associated with the business at 5252 Speaker Road, recommended for approval for 2 years. Vacation applications, item 1, RW 2016-8, Curtis Peterson with Posanelli PC, vacation of a right-of-way at 9800 State Avenue, 1111, 1120, 1300, and 1406 North 98th Street, recommended for approval. Item 2, A 2016-9, Deborah Sandoval, vacation of an alley between 334 and 337 North 9th Street, recommended for approval. Miscellaneous application, item 1, MP 2016-2, Jonathan Stites with Seafried Properties, master plan amendment from low-density residential to business park at 6925 Riverview Avenue, recommended for approval. Item 2, consideration of a sign code amendment, replacement of Chapter 27, Division 11 signs. This includes sections 27 through 272, 22 through 2776 of the Unified Government Code. Following a U.S. Supreme Court decision in 2015, most communities across the country were forced to examine their sign code. The Unified Government chose to include the required modification in a substantial upward and rewriting of the entire sign code. The desire is to make the code more user-friendly and to assure it complies with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court, recommended for approval. Miscellaneous ordinances, these are final action on previously approved items. Item 1 is a vacating ordinance, UE 2016, on ordinance vacating utility easements at 7600 State Avenue, recommended for approval. Item 2, vacating ordinance RW 2016-3, is an ordinance vacating right-of-way located at approximately 3717 Cambridge Street, recommended for approval. Item 3, vacating ordinance RW 2016-4, an ordinance vacating the north 20 feet of 37th Street between Eaton and Cambridge, recommended for approval. Item 4, vacating ordinance RW 2016-5, an ordinance vacating a portion of Eaton Avenue, 36th Street to 38th Street, recommended for approval. Vacating ordinance RW 2016-6 is an ordinance vacating the 30th of Cambridge Avenue between 38th Street and 39th, recommended for approval. Item 6, rezoning ordinance number 3104, is an ordinance rezoning property at 10922 Parallel Parkway from CPO Planned Non-Retail Business District to CP2 Planned General Business District, recommended for approval. The blue sheet item is item number 7, rezoning ordinance number 3109, is an ordinance property at 6925 Riverview from R1 Single Family and MP1 Planned Light Industrial and Industrial Park Districts to MP1 Light Industrial and Industrial Park District. Those are all items on the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Before I ask for removals, I will call on Commissioner Philbrook.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I neglected to fess up to the fact that I'd been in contact with proponents for MP 2016-2. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. Would any member of the staff, commissioner, or person in attendance tonight like to remove any item from the consent agenda? Any item not removed will remain on the consent agenda and be voted on by a single vote. If anyone would like to remove an item, please step forward at this time.
Mr. Mayor, the staff would like to remove item D2, the sign code, for a brief amendment.
Item D2 has been removed.
Move for approval for all remaining items.
Second.
Let the record show I see no one else moving forward to remove an item. It is properly before us. Roll call.
Roll call. Bynum,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
All right, Mr. Richardson, before you begin, would you introduce the newest member of your team?
Certainly, Mr. Zach Flanders has joined our team in the planning department as the planner. He comes to us from BNIM Architects, and he was working on the Rosedale Master Plan, and he's still splitting a little bit of time working on that, finishing that project up, and getting up to speed in the planning department. So we're happy to have him with us.
Welcome. Thank you.
One minor item in the description in the agenda, it said Code Amendment 27722 through 2776. It should be 27761. As for the amendment, representative from the sign industry, the outdoor advertising industry, indicated to me that the way we had put in the ordinance to measure light from the digital signs, especially the outdoor advertising signs at the property line, in some cases would make their signs instantly non-conforming. And so they provided me information from the industry standard, which is to measure those at 250 feet. And so the proposed amendment would be to section 27726E, digital signs, 3, brightness, subletter A, and it would say that it would remove at the property line and replace that with at 250 feet or when adjacent to a residential use at the property line. And that minor amendment, I would recommend approval of the sign code as presented. As you know, we went through this in detail in a study session earlier in the month, and I haven't had any questions since that point in time.
Is that the only change you recommend at this time?
Outside of the staff report, there were amendments in the staff report that were clarifications, but outside of those that are in the staff report, this is the only one that you haven't had previously.
Commissioner Philbrook.
I have had several questions from business constituents
Okay.
about the temporary signs.
Mhm.
And when you say your temporary signs, you can put them up for one day? Is that when we say just like for so let's get down into the weeds here. So like for Schlitterbahn, if they want to put up some signs to say our entryway has changed and have them up for the season, if they have them in the form of what we consider a temporary sign, they could only put them up for a day?
I'm going to ask Mark Wyatt, our consultant on this, to come up. I don't believe that is the case on temporary signs, but between the two of us here in just a moment, we will find that.
Well, I figured I might as well ask now because I've been.
No, it is not for a single day. So if you would turn to page 29 in the clean copy, not the markup of the code.
To 90 days, depending upon.
Here, introduce yourself, give your address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner and members of the commission. My name is Mark White. I'm the consultant on this project. It's actually on page 30, the display period. And To answer your question, it depends on how the sign is constructed. If it's mounted with wire stakes or T-posts, it's 30 days, and if it's on wood frames, metal or wood frames or something similar to that, it's 90 days.
So if they're more like the signs that people put in their yard about, garage sale, those are like 2 days, right? Or something like that?
Actually, it depends on what those signs are made of. So again, if those signs could stay up, 30 days, for example, or 90 days, typically they're only up for 2 days.
So in this particular case, they could come to us and get a variance on that? Is that possible?
In the case of Schlitterbahn?
Yeah.
Certainly, and they also have provisions in their existing special use permit for additional signage that would allow them a more permanent temporary sign that they already have access to.
Okay, can we open up conversation with them again, sir?
Sure. All they gotta do is call.
I know, just asking. Thank you.
Be happy to do that.
So does the temporary signs allow a company to have a grand opening or go out of business for like 2 years in a row?
They would need to replace the sign on the intervals as indicated in the code.
Thank you. All right.
By the way, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Is there a motion as amended by our staff?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Because we pulled it off the consent, we do need to open it up for a public hearing. So I apologize. We will now open our public hearing. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of the sign code as amended is welcome to come forward at this time. Let the record show no one coming forward in support. Anyone opposed to the sign code is welcome to come forward at this time. Still waiting.
Second.
Let the record show no one is coming either in favor or against. It is properly before us as amended. Roll call.
Roll call. Bynum.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
That brings us to our planning and zoning non-consent agenda. We have SP 2016-7, the Cabreras. And I will ask if they are here, they can make presentation at this time. I'll ask staff to give us some background as we get started. Yeah, they're coming.
Mr. Cabrera and the interpreter are approaching the dais. Mr. Mayor, this item is before you, recommended for denial by the Planning Commission. The applicant is seeking to have various livestock on a piece of property that's about 2.8 acres in size, and you have the testimony from the Planning Commission in your packets.
Okay, so it's 2.8 acres. The request is for 6 horses, 10 goats, and 15 chickens. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Cabrera, you're welcome to make recommendation now, or make presentation now.
Okay, estoy pidiendo permiso para los 6 caballos.
Ya la dijo.
Okay. ¿Me presentación de qué?
So I'm asking permission for the 6 horses, 10 goats, and 15 chickens.
Can you pull the microphone over to the interpreter, please? Thank you.
So I'm requesting permission, special use permit, to keep 6 horses, 10 goats, and 15 chickens.
Okay, would you like to make any other comments?
¿Algún otro tipo de comentario?
No, nomás sobre del permiso y que quiero cuidarlos, hacer construir el builder que les había dicho.
No, I just want to take care of the animals, and I want to construct the building that I had mentioned.
Me dijeron que no podía porque no podía estar viviendo ahí, pero tengo servicios como si estuviera viviendo ahí. La casa
I was
todavía
told
no
that I
la
wasn't
termino.
able to build the barn there because I don't live there, but I am paying utilities there as if I were living there.
Los animales no los quiero tener sueltos, los quiero tener en el barn.
And I don't want the animals to be roaming around. I want to keep them in the barn.
So no sé si puedo.
So I don't know if I can.
Okay. All right, I will open up, we need to have a public hearing now. We're going to open up to the public if anyone would like to speak, and then, sir, you will have an opportunity to respond to any comments afterwards. Thank you. All right, if you all would step to the side, and you can sit on the front row if you'd like. I'm going to open it up. If anyone would like to speak in support of this application, would you please come forward at this time to support Mr. Cabrera? Let the record show no one is coming forward for support. If anyone would like to speak in opposition, please come forward at this time. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Valinda McCarthy, 3824 North 60th Street, Kansas City, Kansas. We're here again to plead with you not to grant the petitioner his request. A general rule for horses is 1.5 acre for the first, an additional acre per each additional horse. Mr. Cabrera is also requesting permission for goats. General rule for goats, 6 per acre. After he petitioned for this, I was frightened at the research that I found. Some breeds of goats reach a sexual maturity as early as 2 months. Gestation is only 5 months. At last count, there were 12 to 13 goats already on the property. Let me add, it's also not uncommon for multiple births. So I'm not sure what the intentions are. If you start off with just a few, what's going to happen in addition? I don't know how many chickens. There's just not enough land to properly provide for these animals. We're concerned about public health and welfare, the welfare of the animals. Since the last hearing, the animals haven't been out during the day. I don't know how they're housing them. Extreme heat. The goats are in a tiny building by themselves. I guess there's not a lot I can do about that. 1988 City Code of Ordinances, 7-98C, no livestock or animal of similar or larger size shall be kept, maintained, pastured, or fed within 100 feet of the nearest portion of any dwelling other than the dwelling occupied by the owner or keeper of any such animal.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
The corner of his property is approximately 53 feet from the corner of our home, my master bedroom with my new bedroom windows. Even with the fence that he's installed to put the horses further away from us, now they're only 63 feet. He can move the fence wherever he wants to. He can't stop the wind. If you grant this and I'm not happy with it, even if I attempt to sell, I'm not going to get the value of my home. So again, we're here to plead with you not to grant his permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Paul Willis Gardocki, and I live at 3910 North 60th Street. And in addition to the, protests that I've made earlier at the Planning Commission meetings, if you look at that building right there, which is a chicken house designed to hold 40 to 50 chickens, and if you look at this dwelling or this building down here, they've been built out of, that one was made out of scrap corrugated steel. They've been built within the last 9 months with no permits. And the reason they were built there is because if you listen to the roosters in the morning and the afternoon, that's a very big chicken house. So it's really, when you're trying to listen to songbirds, and I'm a birder, unfortunately having roosters that are broadcasting 6 hours a day in the morning, and that's pretty rank. But besides that, Mr. Cabrera has recently talked about the murder and mutilation of one of his horses on his property by a competitive rider in the races he races in, although the races he races in are from Mexican or vaquero rodeos. The betting at these tracks is controlled by criminals. They're unregulated, untaxed. They just rent a place on someone's 300-acre property, and then the city doesn't even find out about it until it's over. Well, one of his competitive racers came by his property, no one's living there, stunned one of his horses, and then cut it open in the front. Now, it happened at a time when there wasn't much road traffic and so on, and he talks about it as if this is normal for a competitive racer to, I don't even know if there's a police report. Horses have to be worth $1,000 each. I mean, I have horses, so it's unreasonable that there wouldn't be a police investigation
You have 1 minute,
for such a
sir.
felony. But I brought up the other problems, the fact that there's no water on the property most of the time, and that there's no supervision, and that there's no one there at night. So these are continuing problems. He can't afford to fix the house, but he can rent out the space for horses. He told me there was going to be 3 horses in the beginning, now there's 6. I mean, he's just using the process to stretch out the time he's been able to rent the land to other probable racers, I mean, on the Mexican rodeo circuit. So we don't want that happening. I don't want one of my horses killed by mistake. And my property butts right up against the back of his property along this fence line here. You'll notice how some of them are L-shaped. Well, mine's the huge L-shaped one here. So it's just not something we really were expecting. We were never told that this was going to be a problem in our neighborhood.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition? Let the record show no one else is coming to speak. I will close the public hearing, but I will give the applicant an opportunity to respond.
En primer lugar, yo hablé con ellos, con Johnny, hablé hace como 2 días atrás.
Firstly, I spoke with Johnny about 2 days ago.
Si van a venir para acá a ponerse en contra, que vinieran a platicar lo que era verdad.
And I told him if they were going to come and speak in opposition, to come and tell the truth.
No quería que viniera y me pusieran en mal. Si ellos me quieren dar el permiso, que sea por cosas verdaderas, no por cosas de mentiras.
And I didn't want them to mar my name. If they were going to speak in opposition, to speak to the truth. If you're going to give me the permit, to speak to the facts of the permit.
En primer lugar, con el señor él, que nunca he hablado.
With the gentleman over here, I've never spoken to him.
Con el que he hablado es con Johnny Mac.
The only
acerca
one,
de mis animales.
the one that I have spoken with is Johnny Matt. I have discussed my horses with him.
Yo no entiendo por qué viene a decir mentiras, a pararse aquí y decir mentiras.
I don't know why he got up here. Interpreter needs clarification. ¿Quién dijo mentiras?
Las mentiras que dijo el señor que pasó ahorita.
What?
todo es
Oh,
mentira.
the last gentleman that spoke, I don't know why he stepped forward and just
Los caballos,
told a lot of lies.
los caballos que yo tengo allá, no lo quise matar, por eso lo tengo allá. Porque el caballo no me sirve a mí, pero como no lo quise matar, porque se me hizo tristeza,
The horse that I keep there was a horse. I did not want to destroy it.
está ahí.
Is there.
No me sirve para nada. La doctora me dijo que si lo mataba, lo podía matar, pero el caballo no me va a servir para nada.
The vet told me that I could destroy the animal, but because I can't use it anymore, there's no use for it, but I don't want to destroy the animal.
Tengo la cirugía, tengo los papeles de la cirugía que le hice a él, donde consta que no sirve para nada el caballo.
The horse had to undergo some surgery, and I'm no longer to use him for the purpose that I wanted to.
El caballo que él platica se me murió, brincó la cerca,
The horse that he's talking about died. It jumped the fence.
y cuando brincó la fensa, el tubo se le enterró en el estómago.
El tubo? And when it jumped the fence, one of the bars punctured the animal,
El estómago.
the stomach.
Entonces mi otro vecino fue el que me habló y
Ma-
me dijo,
My other neighbor called me and told me about it.
yo llegué tarde, ellos hablaron a Animal Control.
I arrived late. They had called animal control,
Cuando yo llegué tarde, el caballo estaba muerto.
and when I arrived, the horse had already died.
Pero si van a venir a platicar, que platiquen la verdad.
But if they're going to make a statement, that it be the truth.
Mis caballos juegan carreras, es como todo, el organizador es un americano.
And yes, I do race the horses. The person in charge of it is a U.S. States person, United States person. It's not a Mexican person, like he said.
Juego en Oklahoma
I race them in Oklahoma,
y a veces voy hasta, mando uno de mis caballos hasta Mississippi.
and sometimes
hasta Louisiana.
one of the horses is sent to Louisiana.
Okay, do you have any other statement you'd like to make?
¿Alguna declaración
Sí.
más?
El builder que él dice que la casa como yo la compré, así estaba. Nunca he hecho un nuevo builder, construí un garage que es chiquito, así como miran ellos ahí.
I did build a garage, but I haven't done anything to the house. The house is the way that I purchased it.
40 gallinas no las tengo,
I don't have 40 chickens.
pueden ir a contar,
You can go and count.
pero lo que dicen es mentira.
But what he stated was a lie.
Tengo los 15 chivos que sí dice Vanela, la mujer,
Mrs.
Vanela.
McCarthy, I do have the goats, los 15? The 15 goats,
Porque cuando yo compré mis chivas, venían cargadas, yo no sabía.
because when I purchased the goats, they were already going to have
Pero trato de querer,
kids. I did not know, I was unaware that they were already.
trato de querer venderlas, pero mis niños se ponen a llorar. So,
I tried to sell them, but my children started
es
crying,
difícil para mí pues también eso.
so that's difficult for me also.
Pero yo trato de querer tener las 10 que te piden el permiso.
But I would like to keep the 10 that I'm asking for in the special use permit.
Traté de vender algunas, pero es difícil porque se agarran llorando, entonces
And I tried to sell some of them, but the children start crying, and it's difficult.
estoy en trato, sí o no.
And I'm in talks, trying to maybe sell them, maybe not.
All right. Thank you very much. We will now close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission. Commissioner Philbrook.
So, sir, I understand that you've come here and you would really like to have all these animals, on a lovely piece of property. The problem is, the property is too small for what you want to do. The conservancy of the land is important. If too many animals are on it, too much activity, it affects the ground significantly, and the topsoil washes away, and you have other problems. And it doesn't help your neighbors either. I wish you had 20 acres. Then you wouldn't have to be here in front of us. So, too many animals, too small area, and I'm going to have to move that the Unified Government Board of Commissioners deny the petition, SP 2016-7, as it is not in compliance with city ordinances, and as it will not promote the public health, safety, and welfare of the city of Kansas City, Kansas, and other such reasons that have been mentioned.
Second.
All right. So it is moved and seconded. I do want to clarify the nature of the motion. I understand your intent. The motion, I believe, is to uphold the recommendation of the planning and zoning, which is for denial. No, that's okay. I just want to make sure we understand that. Is that correct? And so a vote yes is a vote for denial. A vote no is a vote to approve the animals. Does that make sense? It's kind of backwards. Yes.
Are we going, okay, so if he takes his second back and I take my...
No, we're going to accept your motion in second. Your motion and second are in order.
Okay.
I just want to clarify the motion. To
I just
get
wanna
to
make
your
sure.
intent, your motion is to uphold the planning and zoning recommendation for denial.
That's correct. Sorry about that.
So a vote yes is to deny the animals. A vote no is to approve the animals. Does everyone understand that? We do this about once every other month. All right. It is before us. I do not see any other, anyone else ready to speak. Roll call.
Roll call, Bynum.
I'm sorry, the public hearing is closed.
Roll call, Bynum.
Yes.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Mukia,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. The motion carries.
So, sir, your permit has been denied. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item SP 2016-15. It is a recommendation for revocation of a special use permit. I'm going to turn that over to our staff for presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This special use permit application for live entertainment and special parking arrangement was approved in February of 2016. There were several stipulations included in that. The last portion of that I would like to read because it's really where the subject of this request for revocation comes from. This location has been troubling KCK every time it has opened, however briefly each time. From a murder to a swingers club on the 3rd floor that was supposed to be sealed off, this location appears to attract a bad crowd. It doesn't seem a prudent risk to potentially commit significant extra police at this location at the detriment of security in the remainder of the eastern portion of the city. These concerns are legitimate public health, safety, and welfare concerns. On March 19th, less than a month after the club had been opening, a shooting occurred shortly after 2 a.m. in the morning. The police were called, police report made, the victim was transported to the hospital. At that time, when I was made aware of that, following the incident, I spoke with Commissioner McKiernan, and we talked about the different options for this, and we requested the mayor place this on the agenda for revocation. And so the staff report before you includes the staff recommendation. Commissioner McKiernan did send out a significant list of questions that he had today, and I think some of those are appropriate for the staff to answer and some for the applicant to answer. I have Lieutenant Colonel Garner and Captain Hallmark with me this evening. I think for expediency, I'll go through some of those questions and the answers provided by community policing and the police intelligence unit and the planning staff. What time did the shooting occur? Approximately 2:12 in the morning on the night, I guess that would be the 20th. The shooting occurred inside the club. The security cameras at the club were operating at the time of the shooting. The video was provided and reviewed to the police. Apparently on the video you can see men walk up behind the victim, but you can't make them out. EMS was called. He was transported to KU Med for treatment. There's not been an arrest made at this time. There have been 16 calls for service to this location since January 1st. 6 of those were during business hours. 9 of those were after the business had closed, and 6 of those occurred after the incident on March 19th. We have not had any complaints registered by other businesses on James Street since it opened in 2016. How many patrons visit the business on a given weekend? I think that's more appropriate for the applicant and petitioner to answer at this time. But the club is large and is capable of supporting very large crowds.
What does very large mean?
I'll have the applicant tell you what his fire rating is, but it's in the hundreds.
Thank you.
The next set of questions refer to security and KCK police officers working on the security team. Initially, there were off-duty KCK officers working there, but the approval for them to work off-duty was withdrawn by the chief. Following that, sheriff's deputies were employed. They were off-duty at the time of the shooting. We're not aware if those are active or retired deputies. they're off duty and they are at the location of the premises when they're on security duty, according to the applicant. The officers that were there on the night of the shooting, I believe, were sheriff's deputies, and they were on premise at the time. The next question, next two questions, I think I'll leave for the applicant to answer, related to why the club opened without all necessary permits on Christmas Eve and again on New Year's Eve. The next question from Commissioner McKiernan relates to the planning staff report. It says, during what years and what months has this business been open in the last 10 to 15 years? I believe it was first opened in 2004. This was ironically one of the first cases that came to the planning department after I began my career here at the Unified Government. And in that intervening time period, there have been two periods where the club was open for a couple of months. And each time there was that it was open before, there was an incident. The first time it was open, there was a murder inside of the club and a shooting outside of the club. And the second time it was open is when the police department discovered the swingers club, I think is the most polite way to put that, that was operating on the third floor. And there was actually a conviction in that case. That is a different owner. You'll recall, part of the approval of this project was to make sure that previous owner was not in any way involved in this, and I believe that to be the case. Mr. Fields is a new owner. He's had clubs and operated without incident and issue in other communities, and so I don't want to tie Mr. Fields to this, but this location has and apparently continues to have issues with the crowd that would like to go there. Mr. Fields began working on this project approximately 2 years ago. He was granted a one-year special use permit with conditions. Those conditions weren't met until sometime in January of this year. At the time, it was ready for renewal, and then it was renewed again since he hadn't opened for a one-year period in February. The next question related to metal detectors. I will allow the applicant to answer that question. The questions that we asked in the staff report of the applicant, I will also allow the applicant to answer those, because those were questions that I had asked of them in the staff report, as well as item number 5. And the final question from Commissioner McKiernan related to the James Street Real Estate LLC, and the LLC being delinquent as of May 24th, 2016. I will let the applicant answer those as well. Additionally, there have been issues with some of the advertising that has happened in relationship to the club on their social media. Our Chapter 4, Section 105 has several prohibited activities, including the advertisement of a happy hour while drinks will be sold for a period of time at a lower price during the day than the rest of the day. Having the happy hour itself, where you would have drinks at a lower price than they would be the rest of the day. Selling liquor by the bottle unless it's wine or a carafe of wine or champagne. Advertisement of free drinks is also an issue. Having no one other than employees in the facility from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and providing a list of all employees that are working at the facility. Those are some issues that Mr. Fields, along with Captain Hallmark and Colonel Gardner and I spoke about this afternoon. I believe he understands those at this point, and I'll let him address how he would like to address them if he is allowed to move forward. The options of the commission tonight, after you hear from the applicant and the public, would be that you could take no action, you could take action to revoke, or you could ask the applicant to perform actions and come back in 30 days, or you could add stipulations to how he is supposed to operate from here moving forward. If there is an extension of time, I would recommend that the Board of Commissioners require him to request a CPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design review with community policing, and implement those suggestions. To employ a different style of metal detector than a wand. And now that all of the ordinances and statutes have been provided to him to comply fully with our local and state alcohol laws. With that, I would stand for questions, or if it's the pleasure of the commission, Mayor, you could hear from the applicant and the public.
I think I'd like to go ahead, I don't want to spend too much time on this. I think I want to go ahead and hear from the applicant and decide what action we're going to take. So if Mr. Fields is here, you're welcome to come forward at this time to state why you should not have your permit revoked.
How you guys doing tonight? The situation with the shooting, somebody snuck into the back gate. You know, we had to leave it open for fire department. But since then, we keep security out on the patio at all times. And yes, we work with the off-duty police. These guys we had, they was new. They was only there for a week, because the other police we had, they got pulled. We worked with them for like 5 months. So as soon as they got pulled, we had to get some new guys, and all the training that we did, we had to train with them to redo it. But that night, we was letting out as we move everybody to the front. We moving out. Somebody came through the gate. They came in. We was closed. Everybody was leaving, and then that's when the shot went off. Then the guy left. We had all the cameras work. We did everything to try to keep everybody safe. Like now, ever since, we still been open since this incident. We have no problems. We have no violence, no nothing. The 16 call, we called today because we just got this email today. And about all the questions, the 16 calls, they told us it was only 4. So they sent us at 16, but they said it was only 4 for alarm system. For that night, it was that night. Other shooting, 2 calls for that night. Other shooting, 1, because 1 call was the next day after the shooting, and actually they both was on the 20th, because the next day, people still came. We still had a nice crowd. We still had like 300 people. So for the safety of the people, I wanted to shut it down because I didn't want nothing to happen, because we just had this shooting the day before. So I shut it down, and my off-duty police, they called the city, and the city came out. They helped, and we shut the whole party down because I didn't want no more incidents. So we shut it down that day. So that's the second call, and someone, car got repoed, but they said it was stolen, and that was another call for the theft. So that's when we talked to them. We don't have no calls. I haven't talked to no one, like. We have off-duty police there the whole time, so if any calls, it will come to them. Like the police, KTK police come there, and they hangs out there in front with our off-duty police the whole night. So if it was any calls, it got to be somebody making crank calls. You know, it's a lot of hate. I've been going through a lot with this building. I didn't know the history behind it. Like, it's a lot of hate from everywhere with this building. It drains me every day. I'm there every day, morning, night. I'm walking around there. I don't even supposed to be seen in there. I walk and make sure everybody's safe. Everything. People say we have the safest venue. It is, because we check the women and the ladies. We have women, security, and we have males. The gun came, it didn't walk through that front door. It came through the patio. We had to leave that patio open for the fire department. The fire department told us to leave that gate open, and that's how they come through it. It's on video. You can see them run in through the patio. Since that situation, we got security upstairs and downstairs.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance tonight who would like to speak in favor? Let me think about how I want to do this. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of the revocation, who would like to see this permit pulled? Is there anyone in the public tonight that would like to speak in favor of pulling the permit? Let the record show I see no one coming forward. Is there anyone in the public tonight who would like to speak against the permit being pulled? If so, please come forward at this time. You'll need to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Steve Spencer, and I'm the owner of the building you see in the picture in the lower center. You see the shadow. I have a pointer myself, actually. Somebody has one. If I could make it work. Come on. Right there. That's me. Us. My intention here is to come before the commission to speak in favor of Mr. Fields. I've come to know Mr. Fields personally, not over a long period of time, but a long enough period of time that I understand the man's character and what he intends to do here. It's my opinion that it's a good thing, not only for him, but for me, right there. Not in a measurable way, but in a symbiotic way. We are neighbors. I like what he's doing. We have even come to an agreement on an event that will take place in, if I can get on this lot in October, over 2 days. Now, who am I? I own that building and I operate as a sole proprietorship. I restore classic and vintage motorcycles. I've done that in that building for 20 years.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Those 20 years have been very interesting, to say the least. And I have sympathy with Rob Richardson in not wanting to have the previous tenant of Mr. Fields' club in any way show his face around town, or there, exactly. If Mr. Fields was the previous owner, I would be standing here against him, okay? Now, I've spoken at length with my councilman, or commissioner, Brian McKiernan. He's visited me. We've talked about some other matters, and we've also talked about this problem in a somewhat nebulous way. But as I'm seeing some of this stuff going on right now, I'm saying this is not what I understand. This is not anything that I believe.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you.
I would like to ask Rob Richardson a couple of questions, but if I can't do that now, we'll do it on the side. And he's actually a friend. I like the man. We have had lunch together.
I'd like the record to show that there's someone that likes Rob Richardson at a planning and zoning meeting.
There we go. Everyone who likes Rob Richardson, raise your hand.
All right. Thank you, sir. We're only voting one way.
Good evening. My name is Monte Richardson, and I am a product of Wyandotte County. I was born here, raised here, educated here, purchased my first home here. I've gotten a chance to understand its culture firsthand, and I've also had a chance to help in any ways that I can in the community. I try my best to patronize local businesses in Wyandotte County, whether it be on a small scale or a large scale, grocery stores, apparel stores, barber shops, shoe repair shops, dry cleaners, what have you. I've even tried to stick to hospitals in our county, even take my dog to the vet here. One thing I haven't been able to do is patronize a business in Wyandotte County focused in entertainment and I guess you could say nightlife for my demographic, that demographic being between the ages of 21 and 35 years old, that are young professionals looking for like-minded people to hang around and mingle with. It's tough when friends come to visit Kansas City and I try to show them where I'm from and where I was raised, and usually I have to take a trip across a bridge to go to Missouri for any type of entertainment or nightlife activities. What Mr. Fields is trying to do is bring that type of environment here to Wyandotte County. I think it's something that we desperately need. I've been there just about every night he's been open to see how he runs things. I've been volunteering as much as I can, helping the process run smoothly. He's even asked me for advice on certain things, and I just try to help the best way that I can. As far as everything that he's been going through, he's been dealing with a lot of lies, a lot of deceit, in my opinion, a lot of harassment, and it just has to stop, from slander. And it seems that all someone has to say is, oh, it was a confusion on my part, or, oh, maybe I missed that, and that was a mistake, sorry, I didn't mean to send that out, or I worded that wrong. And nothing happens to those people that tell these lies or make these quote-unquote mistakes. So I want to know, where's the accountability for the city, for the county, and for the people who make those allegations? As a resident of Wyandotte County, that causes me to look at our government structure and raise a lot of questions. Is this the same place that I grew up? Is this where I want to raise my children? Is this a place where I should continue to own and buy property? And the biggest question of all, do I even want to become an entrepreneur here and start my own business? Judging by what Mr. Fields has been through, the answer would have to be no, because I wouldn't want to have to go through the same things he's been through. Thank you.
Sir, your time is up, and okay, sir, I appreciate that. You're welcome to give that to the police, but we're going to continue with our public hearing.
Good afternoon. My name is James Johnson of 6300 North Bells, Gladstone, Missouri. I currently hold the general manager position for Wave Lounge and Grill. I took this position after leaving my job to assist Mr. Fields with running his establishment. Today I address this commission and hope that Mr. Richardson's continued torment and unethical practices are met with the proper checks and balances. He often disregards any code of ethics as he used slander, intimidation, discrimination campaigns, neglecting business owners' rights to operate. As general manager, I've witnessed almost 3 years of Mr. Richardson's misuse of power and waste of city resources as he constantly overstepped his position's boundaries, executing his personal agendas. Rob's continued harassment is the primary reason we are here placed on this agenda today. How is that, you may ask? Well, it's quite simple. His involvement with having the Kansas City, Kansas off-duty police officers removed from work in our establishment jeopardized our previously provided security plan. The normal routine performed by those officers would have prevented the incident of the shooting, but courtesy of Mr. Richardson's fixation with our establishment, there was some confusion between Wave staff security and the Wyandotte County Sheriff, whom were new to performing those details. It is our understanding that we're the only establishment of our type that's not allowed to have off-duty police officers work for us at this time. Yet this is just the tip of the iceberg. When it comes to continued complications we face in trying to partner with the planning department, a perfect example would be one of the initial encounters in which Mr. Fields was instructed that he needed to obtain a special use permit for live entertainment.
You have 1 minute, sir.
He requested this form and was instructed that he needed to find the documentation on the city's website. No instructions, no forms, and the staff at the office made it pretty clear that Rob wanted them to be of no assistance to our establishment. Might I mention, the next day was the deadline to be placed on the agenda for the special use permit. This particular situation was followed by a situation where Mr. Richardson blatantly lied to the Planning Commission, stating that Mr. Fields was a convicted felon. This information was retracted because it was considered misleading and had nothing to do with my employer. Even with this cleaned up, Rob used his, by any means, tactics to continue to misuse city resources.
Your time is up, sir. Thank you.
One last thing I would like to say, we're starting a website in which we're going to reach out to other businesses here in Wyandotte County to just gather other experiences with situations like these. Eventually, we're going to get a petition together to try to help with cleaning up Rob's act, whether that's having him removed.
Okay, sir, thank you.
My name is Troy Campbell. Reside at 8424 Highland Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri. I would like to thank you all for allowing me to speak on behalf of Mr. Willie Fields and Silver Dollar Entertainment. To stand before you all at this revocation hearing today is not only shocking to me, but very unsettling. I have known and worked in several capacities with Mr. Fields for over 20 years. He's allowed me to learn and experience such business endeavors from him that I've carried over to my own day-to-day business and best practices. Mr. Fields started Silver Dollar Entertainment over 15 years ago from the basement of his house. To see the extent of his hard work and labor throughout these years, striving to become one of Kansas City's reputable and successful business owners is inspiring. Willie Fields has built a name and a positive brand for himself that so many have come to appreciate and respect. What I've learned and what I know is Wave Lounge and Grill was built with integrity, honesty, goodwill, and intentions. The goals that Mr. Fields have for Wave Lounge are lengthy, but he sets his sights on building up the area surrounding the building and bringing forth more jobs and employment. He has hopes of giving local residents and young people an outlet. His hopes of working together with city officials, municipalities, and networking with law enforcement to help keep miscreants off the streets and disrupting businesses has never swayed. Mr. Fields' ambitions are multifaceted, and he continues to strategize for other ways of helping out the community and those he comes in contact with. The revocation of a special use permit, in my humble opinion, would serve as a disservice for all that Mr. Fields has worked
You have
up to
1 minute, sir.
and is continuing to do for this community. Hopefully, my conversation with you hasn't fallen on deaf ears and will be considered in your decision today. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kevin Kraus. I am the son of Lucy Kraus, who is the property owner at 16 North James Street. I am a small business owner here in Kansas City area. As a small business owner, I am well aware of the struggles of putting food on the table. Here today, you have a choice on if you're going to rip the opportunity of a small business owner of Willie Fields. I'd like to address 3 very separate points today. The 3 points are: number 1, the security of 16 North James Street; the number 2, the liquor advertisement laws; and number 3, the future of 16 North James Street. My brother, who is a well-known business attorney in Kansas City, has reviewed the 2 insurance policies covering the building. Both policies ensure the financial protection of the employees that work for Wave and make sure patrons are covered in the event of the small type of accident. He has closely reviewed the security plan of Wave to make sure it is in compliance with all laws of Kansas. He has also met with the security experts to make sure that is going above and beyond any requirements in the business. I've seen firsthand the 16 cameras inside Wave. Each of the cameras feed into a central terminal where they can be viewed. The importance of this feed is that it transmits in real time all things happening inside the outside of the building. All the security professionals working for Wave wear headsets so they can better communicate with each other. I would guess that this security is better than any other restaurant or bar in the state of Kansas. I've also been told by my brother that there has been extensive tactical training by the security guards. He has met with Willie multiple times to make sure that the security guards are well equipped to handle any foreseeable situations at the building. They do drills with all the staff and security professionals that the way the safety of the employees and patrons are protected.
You have 1 minute, sir.
I should note that my brother has sued many businesses for failure to supervise improper training and improper security. All that being said, the security at Wave Bar and Lounge is by far the best security in any club he has seen. This security should be the standard at all other restaurants and bars, that all bars and restaurants live up to. Now, I understand that you are concerned with the alleged shooting that took place on March 1st. First, we don't know any of the circumstances surrounding the shooting. Here's what we know. We know that Kansas City police have not attempted to arrest anyone despite being given the tape and shows someone limping in the building. Yes, someone was limping in the building, suggesting that if someone was being hurt, happened elsewhere. There was absolutely no blood inside the club, despite being white floors and a .45 caliber shell found. This was an absolute setup. My car was broken into actually the other night. It was locked in front of my house.
Your time is up,
I didn't
sir.
have any
Thank you.
valuables inside the car, and it was put in a well-lit location. Are you
Sir,
going to
your
take my
time is-
driver's
sir,
license
your time
away?
is up. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Taylor, and I live at 8526 Raytown Road in Raytown, Missouri. I've been knowing Willie Fields for over 20 years. Willie is a very good guy. He has good intentions on running this club and getting good people in there for employment. I was there the night of the shooting, working. I am a bartender there, and I work the upstairs. My thing is, I believe that if the security that was outside was at their destination patrolling the parking lot, that this would not have happened. I was 2 steps away from the incident. There was nothing that was emotional to, spark something that would have caused someone to shoot. It seemed like it was a setup because I was there the whole night. This person, whoever it was that claimed that they got shot in there or whatever the incident might have been, there was no blood up there. I was approximately 3-4 feet away from the incident. I would say at this time again, if they were at their station, none of that would have happened. We haven't had any incidents since then. Actually, I'm not afraid to work in there. I'm a 55-year-old mother and grandmother, a mother of 2 and grandmother. And actually, Willie Fields is my son-in-law. So I say to you, if I was afraid of that, I would not be down there, by no means,
You have 1
working
minute,
in that
ma'am.
club. So I say that if you would honestly take a look at everything, he is being pinpointed out, he's being picked on, and it's obvious that it's happening. There are a lot of customers that I know that I have gotten to come down to the establishment, and they have been enjoying it, and these are people of my age. So I say to you to look at the whole situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this at this time? Let the record show no one else is. I will close the public hearing. Mr. Fields, you do have an opportunity to make any summative comments you would like, and then I'll open it up to the commission. You don't have to, but you're welcome to. No? Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll now close the public hearing, and I'll open up to the commission. Commissioner McKiernan.
Mr. Fields, I applaud you for being a young entrepreneur who wants to be a success in Kansas City, Kansas. It sounds as if you've gone to great lengths to make your club as good as place as it can be. The bottom line is you had a shooting inside that club, and that is a very dangerous thing for the citizens who live here as well as the people who visit here. And so I am at the point where I'm trying to balance, trying to support a young entrepreneur, a young businessman who's bringing business to this city versus someone who might put people in harm's way by virtue of visiting. I will say this, however. I did have, Mr. Fields sent me a letter by email this morning. It was several pages. I have not had a chance to review that entire thing. I just got the staff report on this on the revocation last Friday. I do have 3 pages of questions, some of which have been answered, some of which still need to be answered, including things like opening on Christmas Eve without all your permits and then doing it again on New Year's Eve without all your permits, and how that happened and what steps we're going to take to make sure that things like that don't happen. But I think in the interests of time and for my fellow commissioners, what I'd like to make a motion is that we put off action on this item for 30 days so that I can have additional meetings with Lieutenant Colonel Garner and with Captain Hallmark, and so that I can find out the answers to a lot of the questions, so that I can go through the document that Mr. Fields provided to me today in more detail and see if that prompts more questions so that I can feel like I'm making the right decision when it comes to a vote.
So we have a motion to postpone this to the next planning and zoning meeting, which would be
June 30th.
June 30th. All right, that motion is before us. Is there any further discussion? All right, it is properly before us. Roll call.
Roll call. Bynum.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
So the permit remains in place for the next 30 days, and we'll be back here on June 30th.
All right,
Thank you. All right. That brings us now to our non-planning and zoning consent agenda. I would note that that includes the blue sheet item, the second blue sheet item before you, item number 3. Is anyone in attendance tonight, or any commissioner or any staff member, like to set aside any item from the non-planning and zoning consent agenda? Any item not set aside will be voted on with a single vote.
Move for approval.
Second. Let the record show no one's moving forward to set an item aside. It is properly before us. Roll call.
Roll call. Bynum.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane.
Aye.
Markley. Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
That brings us to our public hearing agenda. Item number 1 is a public hearing and resolution considering IRBs and pilot for Central Industrial Park Building number 2. Mr. Brakovich?
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, good evening. George Brakovich with Economic Development. Make a quick introduction. Brent Miles with North Point Development, probably familiar to all of you, and Tim Klink with Polsinelli representing the developer on this. So we actually have a very brief presentation, but we do want to make a few comments because this is one of the most significant projects we've seen in Fairfax that's not attached physically to the General Motors Fairfax assembly plant, but it is in very close proximity. Wanted to remind the committee, thank you, I appreciate that. wanted to remind everyone tonight of some of the previous action we've taken on this. Back in 2013, this Board of Commissioners adopted Resolution 30-13, or R30-13, which approved the development agreement with North Point for the redevelopment of the 80-acre site immediately adjacent to the GM Fairfax plant, known as the Racer Trust site. So I should recall what the acronym stands for: Revitalizing Automotive Communities, Environmental something. Thanks, Brent. It was a long process to find a developer by the trust that was set up as GM went through its financial restructuring. Embedded in that development agreement, we always contemplated the use of IRB, a CID special assessment, a TDD special assessment. And I just want to remind everyone, one of what the kind of overriding requirement of the developer was to add 1 million new square feet of industrial space in the area, and required a minimum of $40 million in total capital investment over the site. One of the items I didn't put on here, but Brent and I had a chance to talk about as well, is even though the prevailing wage law had changed, the developer actually agreed to honor and pay prevailing wage for the infrastructure components of that project in terms of what we called Phase 1, which was the initial road that needed to be constructed to access the site. Also want to remind you that you've also previously considered this same type of action or a development opportunity for building number 1 on the site, which is the energy gas tank project. You'll probably recall that was a facility that had been operating in Mexico, shut that plant and relocated those positions and those jobs back here stateside. That is a 70,000 square foot building and a $10 million total capital investment. So what we're here, though, for tonight is to consider the IRB proposal for building number 2 on the site. And we have quite a few details, but ultimately, I'd like for you to conduct the public hearing to consider the pilot that accompanies those IRBs. And then if you see so fit at the end of the public hearing, actually adopt a resolution of intent regarding this project. Again, it does represent $55 million in IRBs. So with that, I've got a few slides. I'd like to actually turn it over to Brent and let him kind of talk about the nature of the project and where it's located, and then we'll finish up the presentation with some of the deal points relevant to this project. Brent?
Sure. Thank you, George. Again, Brent Miles with North Point Development. As George said, there was an extensive process with Racer. Just for historical, probably everybody knows this, the original General Motors plant set on this site, I think until I'm going to be corrected, I'm sure, by Commissioner Kane on something here tonight. Until 1985, I think the new plant was built in 85 or 86. This site sat vacant. It was environmentally contaminated because of the airplane manufacturing facility that was there originally. The Racer Trust is not only a process of selling that piece of ground, but also the environmental cleanup that happens to it as well, and all those clearances have now been made by KDHE with the oversight of the EPA. So just kind of an important factor that you had truly a brownfield redevelopment site here, and now putting it back into good use. As George mentioned, we finished the General Motors gas tank manufacturing facility for energy slash plastics Omnium last year. It was actually completed. About a $10 million capital investment that we certified through you all. It actually came in more like 12, 13 million. We've still been waiting on some invoicing to come in on that. What we have proposed here is 830,000 square foot facility. So if you can picture it, if you've been down in that area, it will literally stretch all the way from Kindleberger all the way up to where the Corps will let us go. There is a levee critical zone here, so there's some setback distance that we're working through with the Corps and the Fairfax Drainage District on that right now. This will obviously be state-of-the-art Class A warehouse. I best described it to a couple of people in Wyandotte County as picture Cobb Point, and then it's twice as big. So it is a really large building. As you can see, capital investment, $55 million. It's a really large project. The rectangular building that you see north of Energy, east of the 830,000 proposed, is what we have left. There's about 20 acres of the site left, and it can house probably a 250,000 square foot facility. So if you start doing the math, this project exceeded the 40 million in itself, and we already had 10 going in, so we're at 65 million, and the development agreement was at 40. And when it's all said and done, I think we'll probably be somewhere between 1.3 million square feet at this site. Again, Class A new industrial development. We are building this. We have a tenant in mind. That tenant has not been released publicly yet. So this would be in final negotiations with that tenant. It's actually dependent on hearings tonight. And so I have an email queued up for that to go out with a hopeful yes. Not to be presumptuous, but this is a big investment, big project, and I'm happy to see it finally move forward. I think it says a lot about Fairfax and what's happening down there overall. Fairfax has really kind of turned over, especially over the last several years with projects that's happened. This is an exact replica of what this building will look like, probably even down to the paint. So it's a concrete tilt building, much similar to Caw Point, what you see there in terms of concrete tilt. We, for this tenant, have promised that this building will be done Christmas Eve of this year.
Zoinks. Will there be any murals?
I was going to make a Rob Richardson joke, but I won't.
Rob's had a rough night, so we'll stay on track.
So no mural yet.
Okay.
I think with that, I'll turn it back over to George. As we mentioned, $55 million capital investment, 830,000 feet. Still working with the tenant, but somewhere around 500 employees. It has 500 car parking spots, so that's a pretty good indication of how many employees that you have.
Okay. Thank you. I will go ahead and open the public hearing.
If you don't mind, Mayor, we've got like one more slide.
I would love to
basically.
see your last slide.
Okay. It kind of walks through how the deal's structured and offers some financial projections on what those incentives are valued at. So first and foremost, the IRB and the pilot, it does qualify for the 10-year abatement period, and so we've structured a payment in lieu of taxes, and you'll see that payment reflected. It's provided that they meet certain provisions with participation rates, it'll stay flat, but it is projected at $392,810 per year for a 10-year period. That is based off the 75% tax abatement that they qualify for under our current policy and as we accepted when the development agreement was approved. Kind of offer you a little breakdown of how that 75% is represented. Our standard 45% abatement, 15% based on their capital investment, 10% for hitting the target area, and 5% for their LMW business enterprise participation in the project. The CID then is an additional payment to the pilot. It is added on as a special assessment based on a per square foot value of the new building. It's projected at $1.05 per the development agreement. Also, I call out the ordinance that actually established the CID when we created it. $1 of that CID goes to the developer to reimburse for project eligible expenses on the site. 5 cents of that stays with UG to cover administrative costs related to the CID. And then we also established a TDD, a Transportation Development District, which we don't do a lot of those anymore. We did a lot of them before CIDs became more prevalent, but it's a Transportation Development District. That is also an additional payment to both the CID and the pilot. And that's represented as a 15-cent per square foot special assessment add-on. That is set aside for what we refer to as the Fairfax Fund. So when we first established this, we talked about making improvements along 2 corridors, the Kindleberger Road as well as Fairfax Traffic Way. You might recall that in a TDD, you don't have to create a district and use all the revenue inside the district you've created. You can use it in adjacent properties surrounding that area. And so I did bring a hard copy of the TDD where we went through a pretty thorough list of what we thought were eligible expenses. But again, keep in mind they are all related to infrastructure, whether it's curbs, sidewalks, pedestrian-related, vehicular traffic. I think initially some of the discussion, and I think Mr. Schlittler is here tonight, and I know he was in a different role at that time. I think there was a little bit of discussion about wayfinding signage as well as I think kind of a monument marker as you come into the Fairfax district. So again, keep in mind, we did a great project with North Point at one bookend development of Fairfax, and this is just continuing on the other end of that, another bookend site. So I think that was the last site. So again, just reminding you what we're here for tonight, and that's the conclusion of staff comments on it. Thank you.
Could that TDD be used for access to hike and bike on the levee trail?
Yes, I believe it's an eligible use.
Fantastic. All right, we need to now open up the public hearing. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of this project, please come forward at this time.
I'm Chuck Schlittler. I office 726 Armstrong Avenue, Suite 201, Kansas City, Kansas, 66101. And I'm thrilled to pieces, folks. I can remember meeting with then Mayor Joe Reardon, Mr. Bach, I believe, was in the room, and others. Commissioner Townsend came on before I left the Fairfax Industrial Association. And Mr. Bach, you're to be credited for ingenuity. You had mentioned at the time hoping to be creative and to be able to bring different mechanisms together to renovate and revive the Fairfax area. And I hope you folks will consider this highly. It continues the renaissance, if you will, of the Fairfax area. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Greg Kendall. I'm president of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council at 727 Minnesota and a resident here of KCK. Mayor, Commissioners, UG team, I'm here in support of this resolution of the industrial revenue bonds and a pilot structure for this second building in the Central Industrial Park being proposed by North Point Development and the UG team. This is a continuation of the discussion that began almost 5 years ago to redevelop the 80-acre former GM site and Racer Trust's ground. We're pleased to be a partner with the UG team and North Point Development to encourage this development, create jobs and alignment of the long-term goals, not just for this land, but for the redevelopment and revitalization of the Fairfax Industrial Park. North Point Development has shown their ability to transform sites and to follow through on their commitments at multiple locations here in this community, and we know this will follow in the same pattern. Thank you all.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come forward and speak in favor at this time? All right, would anyone like to come and speak in opposition to this proposal at this time? Let the record show no one is coming forward. We will close the public hearing. Commissioner Kane.
Mr. Miles, sir.
Sir.
Thank you for the history of General Motors. I didn't know that. One of the things that when I ran for office 11 years ago was to revitalize the Fairfax district. I hired in June 3rd, 1976, and I lived at 222 North Thorpe. It took almost 45 minutes to get home because there was that much traffic down in Fairfax. It's been bone dry for a heck of a long time. I appreciate your work. How much of these guys that you don't know going to get paid?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Well, that would be, once you find out who's going to be there, it'd be really, really nice if we knew.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your work, and I make a motion for approval.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. I'd also like to note General Motors represents about 4.4 million square feet of manufacturing space. Between their paint plant and the two buildings that, or the three buildings now that North Point has done, those alone are about 50% more. It's over 2.2 million square feet when you add in the paint plant plus the three North Point buildings. It's about a 50% increase in manufacturing space compared to General Motors. That's a lot of new, just to give you a perspective, that's a lot of new development. Over 2 million square feet is tremendous. General Motors has invested $2 billion in that plant in the last 10 years. And this is an outgrowth of them bringing their supply chain closer. And this is just a great opportunity for our community. So we appreciate North Point, and we appreciate General Motors and our economic development staff that has not missed a beat to capitalize on every opportunity that's come through. Roll call.
Roll call. Bynum.
Aye.
Townsend.
Absolutely aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. Christmas Eve completion? No problem. See if we can get you a permit. All right, that brings us to public hearing for considering establishing a downtown SCHMID.
Thank you, Mayor Holland, members of the commission. The public hearing tonight on renewal of the SMID is the third of 4 major steps in the reauthorization process. Tonight is the public hearing only. State law requires that we wait at least 30 days to actually have the vote. So this will just be the public hearing. The new SMID being proposed tonight is almost identical to the current one. The goal is to have a seamless transition between the 2 districts. As with the current SMID, the new SMID would be an assessment on commercial properties only, not residential. It would go primarily to cleaning, safety, landscaping, and marketing services. The term of the district is proposed to be 10 years. We would continue to have an 11-member advisory board that would make recommendations regarding the improvements and services in the district. One improvement that I think we've made this time is that we are planning to use the annual budget hearing in July to authorize all new improvements and services, so we won't have to go through what we did recently with the trash cans and banners. It'll just be a once a year, everything at once. So that's an improvement. We would again have a third-party fiscal agent to actually implement these services. Oops. Yeah. The final slide here is a map of the district. It's basically the same outline as the current SMID. It's been modified somewhat to make it a little bit more uniform in appearance, but basically it covers the same area. Washington Boulevard on the north to Sandusky on the south, 3rd Street on the east to 18th Street on the west. Unless the commission has any questions, I would like to turn over the rest of my time. Chuck Schlittler from Downtown Shareholders will give a brief presentation, and then Rob Richardson will also.
Thank you, Mr. Waters. I'm Chuck Schlittler, Downtown Shareholders, 726 Armstrong. Thank you. I'm going to let you cue that up because and how do I forward?
Oh, just click this. Just click this button.
This one here? Okay.
Just the arrow.
Work there. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. This one. Okay. Thanks. 726 Armstrong Avenue, Suite 201, KCK 66101. By means of position with Downtown Shareholders, I also interact with the SMID board. It is an advisory board made up of 11 individuals appointed by you, Mr. Mayor, and the 10 commissioners. And I appreciate Mr. Mayor, commissioners, Mr. Bach, staff, Madam Clerk, other staff, and attendees, both whether you're for or against. This is what democracy is about and public meetings is about, and am very, very grateful for the opportunity. As Patrick said, the primary services of the DID, Downtown Improvement District, is called a DID, a SMID, it's called all kinds of things. Security cleaning, graffiti removal. There's also going to be installed 120 plus new banners this season to welcome and promote, welcome people to downtown, promote downtown. We have already ordered 20 new trash receptacles. Those funds are SMID funds. If you've seen the green ones that currently are in use, they have served their purpose, and we're excited about these 20 new ones coming about. I want to share some performance metrics with you. What has been done? 121,000 calls, 121 arrests that ambassadors have been involved in over the last 7.5 years, building checks, tonnage, 200 plus tons of debris, garbage, trash, bricks, bottles, you name it, have been removed. So what does this kind of metric, what do these kinds of things look like? Well, it looks like ambassadors assisting people across an intersection, visiting with folks who are about to take a walk from Huron Park, emptying, taking care of this trash site. This accumulated overnight. It was raining the next morning with lightning strikes, so that afternoon our ambassadors were able to take care of that and dispose of the trash. 100 tires approximately a couple of weeks ago were dumped downtown in alleyways at 12th and State, 13th in Minnesota, and 17th in Minnesota. Our supervisor, Abraham Santana, is here this evening. He's the guy on the bicycle. And people often wonder, what's he doing on a bicycle? I just see him going up and down. Well, this is the kind of stuff he finds. And he works with the Public Works Department. A patch of those have already been picked up and disposed of, and understand that additional tires are on schedule to be picked up also. Abraham also makes sure that people are doing their jobs. Do we do it correctly all the time? No. But we work very hard to try to do so. Here's our new cleaning crew. They are now each full-time as opposed to part-time. We've had 3 different cleaning contractors in the last 18 months I've been around. We've had difficulties with that. We now have the kind, I think, of contractor that has supervisory people in the field on a 6-day-a-week basis. 2 of those folks work Monday through Friday. One works Tuesday through Saturday. And we have, because of limited resources, if you recall, the budget was supposed to be $400,000 a year, and of course then the recession hit. Everybody's budget just was blown up, so we had to make some hard decisions. We had to allocate resources where most of the pedestrian traffic is, where most of the trash, garbage is placed, discarded, and that has been normally between 4th Streets and 10th and 1100 blocks. Have other sections been neglected? Depends on your viewpoint there. We seek to be able to take care of those items when we're aware of them. Abraham does a good job of keeping me posted, and I'm in almost daily contact with our contractor saying, are you aware of this? Are you aware of that? Come pick this up. Please take care of this issue. Received a call recently about this gentleman on Saturday doing his job from a gentleman that's not particularly happy with us, but called and let me know that he was pleased to see that the ambassador, Billy, was doing his job. It was a Saturday. That's down a bit on State Avenue, and that's what Billy was supposed to be doing. This is the type of trash can. 20 of them are coming. Sometime this, in fact, they've been ordered, so within 60, 90 days, I hope. Please don't hold me to that. So what do metrics point to? What difference do they make? Well, all of these good things. Now, we're not hubris enough to say that we've caused all of these increases. Not going to go that far, but nobody comes to a dirty downtown or a nasty downtown or a town where they don't feel safe. Retail sales are up, and by the way, all these statistics are from either the unified government or the state of Kansas. Retail sales up 36, crime down 19, vandalism down 36, et cetera, et cetera. Recently, the Hilton Garden Inn sold, Fairwood Capital LLC. Those folks don't spend money where they cannot make money. It's a cleaner, safer, greener, more welcoming environment, and we believe a great deal of that is because of the SMID, or the Downtown Improvement District. In 2015, we had 25 new businesses apply for business licenses within our area, and property values are up. Our own SMID Advisory Board Chair owns 833 Minnesota. His appraisal has gone up 76% over the last 3 years. And when he inquired, he was told downtown is coming back, the economic development is coming back, and the appraisals have been so depressed for so long, we're catching up. So it's good news for some and maybe not such good news for others, okay? These are other examples. A new owner of 912 Minnesota, completely refurbishing the interior. Here's the coffee shop. Two tenants, or one tenant is looking at the next two floors, floors 2 and 3. This is a building at 6th and Ann. That's the way it used to look. The Kansas City Cupcake Company has bought it. This is what it looks like now, and they should open the first part of June. It's going to be, pardon me, a sweet deal, okay?
I like that.
That's the one I had, Mr. Mayor, okay?
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. The renewal process, as far as our involvement is concerned, both of our boards, downtown shareholders, and the SMID voted unanimously to pursue renewal. The unified government agreed to initiate the renewal this time. We did an in-person study last fall to get the metrics, the statistics, and all that you have seen. LISC, Local Initiative Support Corporation, financed that. Mr. Ed Lindenberg used to hold my position now as our program manager at LISC. Ed, thank you for your continued support, sir. We appreciate that. We sent out over 400 certified letters. We wanted to make sure everybody knew about this evening. We didn't have to do that. But we felt it was our duty to do that and to inform folks, yay or nay, whatever their position was. And again, initially our budget was to be $400,000 because of the recession and such. It was at $3 million. We've already got an additional commitment from the unified government of $50,000 for next year. We are grateful for that if the SMID is renewed, obviously. And that will be used to increase hours, that will be used to increase personnel, and we will make sure that every section is properly attended to, and such as that. This is the resulting in-person survey. 150 businesses or organizations were reached out to, 62 of those responded, and I mean door to door, eyeball to eyeball. Our consultant, David Reno, did that. He went back multiple times to some places, just never did get a response. 62 responded. 24 of those were property owners. 15 of those property owners said that they were in favor of SMID renewal. Others were not sure. Others do not favor. So, our recommendation as both boards is a yes on the renewal vote that would take place June 30. We believe we've made a lot of progress. We believe there's more progress to be made. We believe we've got a lot of momentum going. We think we can help a lot happen downtown because of funders like LISC and others who see the environment as continuing to be clean and safer, and have nodded affirmatively that they would like to continue to fund us. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention this evening. I will remain in case there are questions. Mr. Richardson? Thank you, sir.
Mayor, members of the commission, I want to tell a little bit of the story that Chuck didn't tell. Another thing that happened 13 or 14 years ago in October or November, I attended a series of meetings and the old Chamber of Commerce building with the pink walls and ugly carpet. And they had 4 topics, but 2 of the topics that they were the most concerned about were safety and cleanliness of downtown. They were talking about marketing and development and other things as well. But the thing that everybody focused on over that next time period was clean and safe. How do we become clean and safe? And out of that, call it ragtag group of people that were meeting at the chamber, just in these groups that were interested in downtown, emerged the downtown shareholders. And that group of folks organized around those same 4 principles: economic development, marketing, clean and safe. And while the business folks downtown are capable of working with developers, as you know, and they make recommendations to the planning commission, they appear before you all, they help development occur in compliance with their plans. They have folks that are capable marketers, and they can do marketing, and they find the little bits of funds here and there that they need to do the marketing that they want to do to help promote downtown and their activities. But to do clean and safe, it's beyond what a group of business people can just get together and throw money in a pot and make it happen. And so they investigated a series of ways to do clean and safe effectively for this portion of our community. And they decided to pursue a SMID. And one of the interesting things about the SMID is that as business people, they didn't want to take over what we're supposed to be doing as a city, as a municipality. We're supposed to plow the streets. We're supposed to provide sewer service. We have a level of standard of service that we provide, and they didn't want to take that over for us. They wanted to add to that. And the Self-Supported Municipal Improvement District allowed them to do that because it requires of them that they not take over our job for us. It's an additive process. We get the city services and we get the added benefit of the Self-Supporting Municipal Improvement District funds to help do the clean and safe activities. And I think that if you look at downtown today, it is markedly different than it was 10 years ago. You don't see the same trash can full of trash day after day after day. There's not undue amounts of trash blowing around anywhere downtown. Many property owners take it upon themselves to add to this and do more cleaning themselves because they know it's going to go somewhere. If I clean up my property, the general public area isn't going to re-dirty it immediately. The trash isn't going to blow around as much, and it gives you incentive to keep your property cleaner. The safety ambassadors are really incredible. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting up on the Hill having a meeting with somebody interested in doing downtown development, and a gentleman walked by the window that was in serious medical trouble. I don't know what caused that. I have my suspicions, but he was in trouble. Before the police and the ambulance got there, the safety security guy got there because he got past the window that we were standing at and collapsed, and they were there. They are able to respond in ways that our police department could, but they are capable of relieving the duties of the police department in minor issues to help people find their way, to help get them help if they need it, to call an ambulance, or to do those types of things. And that leaves our police officers free to handle more serious business that we really want them to focus on. And I think if you look at those 2 things, the aspect of safety and the relief that it gives to the police department and the partnership that's there. And if you ask the police officers that have been on the community policing beat, so to speak, downtown, they really appreciate the help of the security officers. And they have a great relationship. You take that and you add it to the clean part of this, the trash pickup, DTS working on planting flowers. Last Friday, was it Friday? They had flower planting day. A week ago Friday, they planted all the flowers in the flower pots downtown. They're well watered today. That was for you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And I would hate to see that go away because there's been so much progress made, and it's opened other doors. I don't think Mr. Arkell would have come in and redone a building 10 years ago in the shape that downtown was in because, quite frankly, it was a little embarrassing. We've done streetscape improvements. We've done all of these other investments to help downtown, and we're starting to make a lot of progress. I hope that we don't end it the SMID, because that would be a very, that would be a knife to the heart of the downtown folks that are trying to make downtown better.
Thank you. That's all we have from staff. We'd be happy to answer any questions or open up the public hearing.
All right, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. We will start. If anyone would like to speak in favor of the SMID, to please come forward at this time and to state your name and your place of business, if you're a business owner or tenant.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Bach. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Rodney Smith. I'm the Deputy Chief of Police, 700 Minnesota Avenue. The police department offers our highest level of support for the SMID. The ambassadors, they provide a highly visible presence that's a deterrent to crime in the area. And, you know, due to the number of people that come here and do business, as well as use our transportation hub, that's very important. The security and cleaning ambassadors, they offer friendly information to people, a lot of interaction. I see it out my window every day. They give guidance to people, and they keep the area looking good, which is very important to deterrent crime. The ambassadors are eyes and ears. We can't be everywhere. We have people in the area, but they provide an extra presence that, you know, enhances our ability to respond to serious crimes. They also are able to handle really non-police issues of a minor nature that otherwise would result in calls for service for the police department. And that saves us time, allows us to concentrate on the big issues. The bottom line is the ambassadors provide an enhanced level of safety and security in the downtown area. And I personally feel more comfortable. My spouse comes down and does a lot of business in this area. And I feel more comfortable with her being in this area based on the fact that the progress that we've had made over the last 10 years or so. So we support the SMID and hope you vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Cash. I live at 3633 North 87th Street in Kansas City, Kansas. I am here in support of renewing the SMID. I am the last remaining founding member of the Downtown Shareholders, which Mr. Richardson actually started its meetings in the basement of the Catholic Church on the next block over. We felt we needed all the help we could get. I'm sorry, I now have to wear these. A few years ago, after the Downtown Shareholders was formed, we determined that we needed to do more in our downtown. We needed to do more to make our downtown look cleaner and feel safer. This takes resources and money. So the process began to form a SMID. Now, as Mr. Richardson said, we looked at many models, but the model we really modeled after was what has been done in the Kansas City, Missouri district, which started in their downtown area and has continued to grow over the years. Putting together a SMID was a process to get it approved and to get it up and going. And I've served on the SMID board, I think, for 2 separate times before, and just recently was asked to join again. The SMID is still a process, and it's a process that we have to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make our downtown look cleaner and feel safer. We obviously are not there yet, and while I understand that not all agree that it should be renewed, I ask that it is renewed, because I too, like Mr. Richardson said, I don't want to go back to a time when there was no one doing an organized effort in our downtown, because that's what it takes. I'm not a property owner, and I'm not a business person in the downtown area.
You have 1 minute, ma'am.
But I work once more again in downtown. Because of that, I was pleased when Commissioner Kane asked me to go back on the SMID board. I've accepted it, and if the SMID is renewed, I will work very hard with all parties to continue to make our downtown cleaner, safer, better looking, and a better investment for all. I ask you to review the SMID when the issue comes to a vote on June 30th. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Barbara Jolly. I work at the Public Library at 625 Minnesota Avenue. I'm secretary of the board of Downtown Shareholders, and I'm a member of the SMID board. I'm first going to start with 2 letters by board members who were not able to attend tonight that you all have copies of and we want read into the record. The first is from Greg Ottinger, an attorney who offices downtown. And he says, I am out of town and am unable to attend the May 26th meeting, but please add my statement below to the record when you consider whether to renew the self-supporting municipal improvement district for 10 years. In the interest of the full disclosure, I am currently on the SMID advisory board, but my office is also located within the SMID district. Honorable Mayor and Honorable Commissioners, I'm writing to ask you to renew the self-supporting municipal improvement district for another 10 years. The SMID has provided enhanced security and litter removal since its inception, and it is now additionally providing landscaping and beautification services. As a result, the downtown area is cleaner and safer and more attractive, all of which adds to the property values and helps attract new businesses and shoppers. The SMID has played a significant role in these improvements and will continue to enhance our downtown community if it is renewed for another 10 years. Please vote in favor of that renewal. I grew up in Wyandotte County in the 1950s through the 1960s. When my family shopped, went to movies, or ate at a restaurant, it was in Kansas City, Kansas, and Wyandotte County. Our family doctor and our dentist were also located there. I moved away from the area in 1971, but often returned for personal or professional reasons. During that time, I witnessed a downturn in the community as the buildings became vacant and litter became more prevalent. When my job brought me back to Kansas City, Kansas to attend business meetings at night, a policeman or security guard would often escort us to our cars after the meetings due to safety concerns. A few years ago, I moved back to the area and in 2009 leased an office at 748 Ann Avenue, which is located within the SMID district. The positive changes to the downtown community were immediately obvious and strikingly impressive, thanks in large part to the SMID cleaning ambassadors. There is very little litter in our streets and sidewalks, thanks in large part to the SMID safety ambassadors and their coordination with the local police. Crime has decreased to a fraction of the previous levels. Downtown is again an enjoyable place to work,
You have 1
walk,
minute, ma'am.
shop, and dine. And the letter goes on. There's also a letter from Jim Schrader, who lives at 2108 Washington Boulevard. Dear Mayor and County Commissioners, I have been actively involved in the Downtown Shareholders of KCK for 7 years, representing not only my West Height neighborhood immediately adjacent to the downtown district, but also bringing DTS my skills and background as a longtime architect at Gould Evans. During this time, the slow but steady improvement of the downtown Minnesota Avenue area has enhanced the livability of our historic downtown neighborhood. The activities of the Downtown Improvement District over the past 5 years have been a huge part of that. Investments made by both the UG and private enterprise in the area would not have had the same kind of success without such efforts as the SMID, as wonderful cleaning and security ambassadors, just to name 2. I wholeheartedly urge you to support the SMID renewal, and thank you for that support.
Your time is up, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Jody Franchette. I'm Director of Administrative Services at the Board of Public Utilities, 540 Minnesota Avenue. We want to support the SMID being renewed. The ambassadors, they help our customers. They assist them with getting in the building where they're supposed to park, all kinds of things. They're very friendly. We've had compliments on them, thinking that they are our security and that we've passed along. They are very helpful. They have stopped vagrants or just people going through our parking garage, you know, looking at cars or whatever they may be doing, forgetting where they parked, whatever they're doing. And then also, I remember working at 700 Minnesota and walking out to go to lunch or do whatever and see the swirl of trash over by the security bank that is no longer there. And it's because of the SMID and because of the downtown shareholders. Thank you.
Thank you.
G'day, Will Anderson, representing BHC Roads. We're a downtown business. Most important thing for us is we're shifting. And one of the decisions that we had to make was whether to stay or move. The effect on that the SMID has had in security and cleaning helped to make that decision. One of the interesting things is, of course, we're shifting out of the old Kansan building. There's new owners for the Kansan building. It's full. We're shifting to the old Apple Market building, so it will be full. So that it's one of the big decisions to keep this place going.
Good evening again. I'm Greg Kendall with Wyandotte Economic Development Council and a resident of Kansas City, Kansas. Commissioners, UG team, Mayor, I'm here in support of the resolution to continue the establishment of the downtown self-supporting municipal improvement district. We must continue to invest in ourselves. Our office is located in downtown KCK at 727 Minnesota. I personally spend an awful lot of hours in the downtown area in that building. We bring an awful lot of clients into the downtown and to that building, and we have a significant investment in that building as well through the KCK Foundation, Chamber Foundation, when they reinvested in that building. And we believe this SMID is necessary to ensure that we have a clean and secure environment in the downtown. We often see the crew supported by the SMID picking up trash and providing strong visible presence in the downtown area, in which we appreciate. And I've appreciated the responsiveness when we've had to reach out to the downtown shareholders to come back through or to revisit an area that may have been overlooked. We think the SMID is working well, and we would encourage you all to support the resolution. We appreciate the work that they're doing and the work of the downtown shareholders. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Bach. My name is Lynn Kaluva. I'm an owner of Rental City at 833 Minnesota Avenue. I also am a member of the advisory board to the Downtown Improvement District. And I would like to point out that I and the other 10 members are strictly voluntary. We get no pay, no benefits. We do what we do because we strongly believe that the improvement district is essential to the revitalization of our downtown. My family has owned and operated businesses in downtown Kansas City, Kansas for 65 years. I remember the downtown in the 1950s and the 1960s. It was a vibrant business center, the sidewalks full of people going to and from shops, movies, restaurants, and more. There were shops and stores of all kinds, and there was plenty of business to go around. We all made a decent living here. And I also remember the downtown in the 1970s and 80s. As a result of a number of factors, downtown went into a downward spiral. One by one, businesses that had been here for years either moved to other parts of the metro area or went out of business entirely. As I would walk down the streets, there was vacant buildings after vacant building. And instead of the shoppers on the sidewalk, there were panhandlers, prostitutes, drug dealers. The downtown had an image of a blighted and dangerous part of town, and people were afraid to come here. It is finally changing. Downtown is clean and safe. Businesses are moving in again. I see ordinary people like you and me on the sidewalks again. Investors are buying and improving property downtown. Property values are going up. We're doing a lot of the right things here. We're now faced with the question of whether or not to renew the improvement district.
You have 1 minute, sir.
I ask you to visualize what downtown would be like if the district is not renewed. There would be no one to pick up and dispose of tons of trash, tires, etc. that accumulate on our sidewalks, streets, and alleys. There would be no one to get rid of the weeds that grow up between the sidewalks, sometimes a foot high. There would be no one to remove shoplifters, panhandlers, and prostitutes that surely would return to downtown. And we can't expect one patrolman, no matter how conscientious, to be able to get rid of all of them. The SMID costs us about $500 a year, and we consider it to be money well spent. I'm very much afraid that if the SMID is not extended, downtown would slip back into the blighted, crime-ridden area it was 8 to 10 years ago, and none of us would want that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Beverly Easterwood. I live at 950 Washington Boulevard, across the street from part of where the SMID ambassadors clean. I also work in the Crossline Towers building at 1021 North 7th Street, and I've personally witnessed the ambassadors doing their job every day. I've worked in that building since 1982, so I've also witnessed the change that has taken place over those years. Because when I first started working there, downtown was a lot different from what it is right now. And that change has been because of the ambassadors. I can't say many things that have not already been said, but I do want to, as president of the Douglas Sumner Neighborhood Association and a resident and a downtown worker, express my support of the SMID and hope that you vote positively. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ross Stewart. I am the Strawberry Hill Neighborhood Association president, and I live at 620 Sandusky, just down the hill. I'm here today to encourage all of you to vote yes to renew this. Chuck invited me down here for a neighborhood perspective on this. I am thankful for all that DTS does. This actually runs through my neighborhood. Part of my neighborhood is part of this district. Safety is important, cleanliness is important, but we're on the cusp of a very good thing, I feel like, as a county and also in my neighborhood. I've lived here for 2 years. Things are looking very good. We have new families moving in, we have new businesses moving in, and safety and cleanliness are important, but image is very important. And what is the image that we project if we don't have these services? We're starting to do cleanup days in my neighborhood. It helps people's morale. It helps people feel safer. Broken window theory abound. Please vote yes to renew this. Thank you.
Ed Lineber, Greater Kansas City LISC. Our office is at 600 Broadway, Kansas City, Missouri, 64105. This brings back a lot of history. I was here 7.5 years ago talking about this improvement district and how important it was. But now it's my first time actually getting to talk to you about the investments that we are making, LISC is making in the downtown and in the Kansas City, Kansas area. Over the last 10 years, we've invested $1.2 million in this city to see it improve. And I think that's an incredible statement. We believe in it. When I asked if it would be okay for me to come and talk to you, the resounding yes was, please do that. Please come and present in support of the improvement district. We believe in the economic drivers that Clean and Safe bring in the marketing that comes about. The true belief of the way LISC functions is truly about place-based investments. So we look at the place. We have selected 6 of those locations, 3 of which are in Kansas City, Kansas. We have invested money into this community because we believe in what's happening and where it's going. We wouldn't if we didn't. And so I would ask that you please vote yes in support of the improvement district, and I thank you.
All right, I don't see anyone else coming forward in support. I would like to offer, and I often do this when large groups are here, if you would like to stand and show your support. We will offer that for those who are opposed also. But if you're here in support, whether you spoke or not, would you please stand to show your support? Thank you very much. You may be seated. I'll now open it to those who are opposed. If you're in opposition to continuing the SMID, please come forward at this time. Okay. I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to answer that right now. We did answer that in the presentation, so we would ask you to get with staff right after this to try to clarify that. It's an important question that this gentleman right here in front will get with you and explain all of that. Thank you for your question. So please come forward if you're in opposition to continuing.
My name is Jerry Vess. I have 3 businesses on this district, 1313 State, 1112, and 1120 North 13th Street. I'd like to let you know that I was very much involved in getting this SMID started. The way it started long before, for about 10 or 15 years, I really don't remember. We started at the YWCA having meetings at least once a month. We had a lot of meetings in Ed's office with the police department and sheriff, trying to figure out what to do about the criminal activity that's running our businesses down. Like I wrote the letter to you the other day, Mayor. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I looked around trying to figure out how we could stop this and bring our city back, like I talked to you in that letter the other day. Well, we tried several things. It didn't work. Community service didn't work, whatever. I think it would, but you know, they didn't really work on it that hard. So it was actually at one of the meetings at the YWCA, if those of you that were there, I actually mentioned the SMID, not the SMID, but a cleaning crew and a security team, because I've been watching it over in Kansas City, Missouri, coming back late at night doing the Shakespeare Festival that I've done for 22 years. And they say, hey, let's look into it. Well, they started looking into it. It wasn't long. I was on board with it, and I was so excited that we were finally going to clean up our city. Well, a lot of these guys that are here tonight are very upset with me. I worked on it along with Ed, really worked hard trying to get the SMID going. And I was so excited. I was carrying a big we did win button, DID, I don't remember what it was. But anyhow, I wore the button around really proud. I had several of these businesses, some of them that are here tonight, that was very angry with me because of the increase on their taxes. We're already overwhelmed on taxes, like I wrote you the other day about too.
You have
But
1 minute,
when
sir.
it first came about, I'm really surprised when I heard from the police officer said that they really liked it, because I know a lot of cops, and they say, man, what could they do? You know, this is silly. Well, I was kind of offended because I helped them get started. And I haven't, you know, I've had six police reports actually on my shop since Christmas, and I had a police officer arrested somebody 2 days ago on my property. When I got this registered letter, I really wasn't planning on doing a whole lot. All at once, and I don't even know where half of these people were, they come in and they throw this letter down on my desk. What is this about? And I started telling them, and all at once, and these are people in the neighborhood that I don't even know, I'm telling you. And I started explaining it to them, and they were angry. Then I got a call from Bob, and I got a call from several other people, and I thought, well, I guess you guys don't want it, okay? And I went out and started walking up and down the neighborhood with that registered letter and asked them if they received it.
Can you wrap up, please? We're
I'm
out of
sorry.
time.
I'm
Go
sorry.
Ahead. Go ahead and wrap up.
Well, I got 10 pages of people saying in the neighborhood, they're property owners or business owners that said they don't want it, okay? We are actually, it's coming out of our pockets, and we're not happy with it. And these other people will, and as I'm going, okay, whatever. I got a lot to say. I know they got to talk a lot longer than us, but I know I've already talked to Brian.
Gets the same 3 minutes.
Pardon me?
Everyone
understand.
gets the same 3 minutes. No one got longer than you did.
Okay, I'm just saying, we're unhappy.
Thank you.
Who do I give this to?
You can give it to the clerk.
Hi, my name is John Ranger. I own the Muffler Mart, 518 North 7th Street. And I don't know, I was kind of counting, and I might be wrong, but there's 13 people got up and spoke for this, but only one was a business owner. And it seems like the business owners are the ones that are supposed to have the say-so what goes on, so I wasn't happy with that. And I was opposed to this the first time it happened, and I was told 51% of the business owners or landlords had to approve this. And from what I understand, it went through because they had the bulk of the money, but not the bulk of the people. And one of the reasons I was against this is because most of the negative activity that I've had at my place all happens at night, and these guys work during the day. And for 4 years, I have not seen an ambassador or a trash cleanup person at my shop until Chuck came by not too long ago to try and pump me up to come up here and be for this. And since then, one security guy came down there, or ambassador came down there, kind of handed me his card like this, all embarrassed. He had no clue that my shop, he's even in this district. And I paid out, well, I'm not sure the exact amount, but you know, I've been paying my taxes, and I paid out several $1,000s, and all I got is one guy giving me a card, and the card doesn't even have his name on it. And retail sales are up, but what I'm worried about is what about car count? What about customer count? They're not up. Let's see. Prices for services and cost of business is increased, and that's how they come up with some of their pie chart stuff. I mean, they've spent a lot more professional time on that than I have. And
You have 1 minute, sir.
well, that's all I really have to say. I got some other stuff, but I can't think.
Thank you.
I'm Fred Smith. I own properties at 1245 State and 1230 Minnesota, as well as 6 lots up on the State Avenue. And my issue is very simple. I think it's a great concept for downtown. If you really look from 10th Street on west, as the gentleman said, you never see the ambassadors. You rarely see the people that pick up the trash. And to that end, I invite you to look at the property at 1228 Minnesota, which is next to my building, which is a dump. It has been a dump for 28 years that I have been in my property. So what I'm asking is, if you approve it, please consider looking at the lines and saying that, and most of the people that signed the petition are in our area, from 10th Street on west, don't want it, don't support it. We pay a lot of taxes. This is an extra burden to us that we really don't get any benefit from. So I'd like you to consider that, redrawing the lines. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff Farr. I'm at 714, 718 Minnesota Avenue. Been there for 26 years. Seen a lot of things happen and seen a lot of things change. We originally had Avenue Association that was the downtown area. Cost us, I think, $40 a month to join that. He had a guy that went around and picked up trash. He did development. He talked to all the business owners. It was fine, you know. I would consider the ambassadors have helped a little bit, but I still, on a daily basis, have panhandlers. I still, just this year, had a plate glass window broke out. Of course, it happened at night when the ambassadors aren't working. Now, I'm right next to the police department, and that hasn't even changed anything. That doesn't change what happens down there. Now, those trash cans, the one in that picture that he showed, that's a business that doesn't even have a dumpster. They use that as their trash can. That is the hair braiding place on Minnesota Avenue. And that trash can looks like that all the time because that's their dumpster. So if we would start enforcing codes and the police would do their job, we wouldn't have to have the extra ambassadors. So, and as far as property values, business, I had to go through a 9-month fight because my property taxes were raised and nobody could tell me why, except I found out that, oh, they raised somebody's because they were trying to get them to do something. And I'm like, oh, were you trying to get me to do something? Were you trying to get me? You know, we've struggled for 26 years to make a living and don't make a living on this street. I mean, years ago, I talked to a guy that had a business there, and I was telling him what I was going to do, and he goes, man, he goes, I don't care if the rent's free. You won't make a dime on this street. And he absolutely is true. We've lost so much population downtown. The Katz building looks great. Are there any people in it? Are there any people in it? No, there's not. So I don't know where this development that you're talking about is happening, because it's not happening. I'm looking at
You got
20
1 minute,
years,
sir.
buildings have been empty, and they're just sitting there. Nothing's happening. So that's my word.
My name is Mario Leon, and we own the building at 731 Minnesota Avenue. I just want to make a couple of comments. I mean, I feel like if I say anything, I might be going against our police department or somebody else.
Sir, can you pull the mic down just a bit? Thank you.
Anyhow, I was just reading up on taxes a little bit, and you know, one of the things about taxes is it's you know, for the government, and it's for the protection, police department, fire department, and those type of things. And I can see that that's important. I mean, I get stopped by the police all the time. They got a smile on their face when they give me a ticket, and I appreciate that. Anyhow, you know, as I was listening to those that are for it and then listening to the people that are against it, I'm a recent building owner. I don't see a whole lot going on in downtown KCK, but that's probably not a result of you know, criminal activity or anything like that. And any cleanup that's going on down there should be the responsibility of building owners. What I don't see in any vocabulary about taxes is for the people to pay a relief service type of ambassador in a tax. I don't see it. What I see is that we pay for policing and cleaning BPU, and I'm of the opinion that where is this stuff going to stop? I mean, we can continue to come up with reasons to tax ourselves, or the city government can continue to come up with reasons to tax owners and so forth. But where does it stop? You know, so I guess I'm questioning whether or not this has any legitimacy. Yeah, I know Ed and all these shareholders are doing a great job of improving, but this kind of burden is something that I'm concerned about for our city. I mean, I'm concerned about it for the people that are trying to do something in the city. And Lord knows, I've done a lot of volunteering for the city. A lot of people don't see it, but I have. So, just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Dave Reynolds. I own Rain Tunnel Car Wash at 1549 State Avenue. And conceptually, I don't think anybody in the room can really disagree with what the SMID is all about. I just think we need to reconsider the financing. The financing should not be on the burden of the small businesses.
Thank you. All right, I don't see anyone. Oh, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Carl Schumacher. I own the property at 1406 Minnesota Avenue and 1409 Minnesota Avenue. And I can see the value in what we're doing with the SMID. It's questionable at times, but I can see what it's there for. But I don't see the equity in the taxes that's covering it. Right here, I bought a property last year, a year ago, at 1321 North 13th Street. This is Washington Boulevard and 13th Street. The property at the time I bought it was valued at $69,900. 1 year later, I get this. $130,000. How do you explain that? And all we did after we bought the building is clean it up. We resurfaced the parking lot because it was in bad shape, and we painted the retaining wall and cleaned it up inside and out. Now, I've been around Kansas City, Kansas since 1951. I've been up and down Minnesota Avenue. I've been all around the area. And I just don't understand this kind of thing. I've got a building at 1406. The taxes on that thing are $3,600 a year. It's insane. And I can't rent it because they have jacked around the parking. And the guy wants to rent it, and he says, well, where can I park? You got to park on the street. Well, they won't count the parking lots on the street. And if you're going to do this kind of business, you have to have X
You have
amount of
1
parking
minute,
spots.
sir.
But you can't count the ones on the street. I did own the bowling alley, 1401 to Minnesota Avenue, and 1327, the lot across the street. It was a parking lot. For 25 years, that was a parking lot. I sold the building to Cush Corporation, and when I did, he bought the property, the parking lot and the building, and they said, well, that can't be a parking lot. For 25 years, we've had a parking lot. I go down and sell it, and they said, well, can't be a parking lot because there's no building on that property. I said,
Your
how come
time
for
is up.
25
Thank you,
years
sir.
it was a parking lot? And the taxes just keep going up.
Thank
And
you, sir.
I would support this thing.
Sir, your time is up.
Okay.
Your 3 minutes is up.
I would support this if it wasn't so inequitable.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition?
Hello, my name is Randy Schumacher. That was my dad, Carl. I started buying property in Wyandotte County when I was 25 years old. I grew up around here. We lived in Missouri at the time, but ever since I was that high, I've been coming to Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, working here, lived here for a lot of years, bought several houses, fixed them up, rented them up, cleaned them up, fought with the inspectors to get things right, with headaches all the time, trying to fix the property up and make the place a better place to live. I also own a building that I lease on Minnesota Avenue, have 2 tenants in it. I talk to all the businesses in the area. My son and I, 3rd generation, my son, have the shop in the building he just bought that they doubled the property value on. And we service most of the businesses in this area, taking care of their stuff. We talk to them all the time. I think it's a good idea doing what you're doing. I don't think it's the right way. I'm all for the clean. I don't see that the security past 10th Street, the security detail or whatever you call them, are of any benefit. We get hit on a regular basis with crime at our new shop. The other day they busted out a window at 12:30 at night on a car to try to steal it. I talked to a lot of the businesses that are scared to call and complain because of repercussions. And I know that sounds a bit odd, but it is happening. Every day, pretty much, I have to run a drunk off my lot or deal with the guy that stands across the street at the liquor store and jumps up and down and screams all day long
You have
for
1
the past
minute,
2 or
sir.
3 years that we've been driving through there. It's an ongoing deal. They come through and steal stuff out of our cars. We had 2 trucks they ripped the radios out of. We need the security at night. I mean, I get no sleep. I'm always in and out down there trying to keep an eye on the place. And I see a lot of the security guys, if they were working for me, they'd be fired immediately, standing around for hours on end, talking, hanging out inside a business when they should be outside, up and down the street, doing what they're paid to do. And the money's coming out of my pocket as a business owner and as a building owner, and it's not being taken care of the right way, I don't believe. So I thank you for your time, and that's about all I got to say today.
Thank you. All right, I don't see anyone else coming forward to speak in opposition. I would give you the same opportunity that I gave those who were in favor. If you are here tonight, whether you spoke or not, if you are opposed to the SMID, would you please stand and show your position? All right, thank you very much.
That's all that staff has. We're happy to answer any questions.
All right, so this does close our public hearing. That does conclude. We do not have a vote tonight because by state law that must happen 30 days from now. That will be on June 30th when we will have the actual ordinance before us for our full consideration. I don't see anyone else moving to speak at this time. We are going to take about a 10-minute break. We've been at this for about 2.5 hours. We're going to stand and stretch. I think if we stand and stretch, the other items will be quick. If we don't stand and stretch, they'll probably take 2 hours. So I'm going to stand and stretch just to make sure. Please take your seats. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you're not staying for the remainder of the meeting, we'd ask for you to quietly depart. But we are calling the meeting back to order. Our next item is a public hearing. We're actually going to do two public hearings at once. One is for the Rainbow Village TIF and Development Agreement. The second is for the Rainbow Village CID. Those require, they each have their own requirements for a public hearing. We are able to do them together. So we will begin with the Rainbow Village portion, and I'll ask Mr. Bach to lead us off.
Thank you, Mayor. A little bit of a unique situation tonight. We're not ready for the presentation on this. We're still working through some details with the developer as to exactly how we will present this project. So at this time, we're asking that we continue forward procedurally, open the public hearing. If anyone that's here that stayed through the night, we'd ask that you go ahead and let them come up and present if they'd like to. But we're requesting that we continue it to June 9th, at which time both our economic development partner and the developer who are here would give our presentation on the projects, and then we would continue the public hearing, but people would have the chance to be able to comment precisely on what is made during that presentation.
All right. So that adds some clarity.
Yeah, that'll conclude where we're at from a presentation at this point, and I'd ask that you open the public hearing for both items 3 and 4.
All right, so that public hearing is now open, and we will have a public hearing. We're recommending pushing this forward to June 9th. So we will have another public hearing on June 9th, so you will still be able to be heard even if we move this. So if you would like to come forward tonight, if you've just been waiting to speak to this item, you're welcome to come forward. Anyone who would like to speak in favor of these two items is welcome to come forward at this time.
Hi, Heidi Holiday, Rosedale Development Association, 1403 Southwest Boulevard. And because I've waited around, I'll go ahead and speak in favor of it tonight and probably on June 9th as well. We are excited to see this investment in the Rosedale neighborhood. Lane 4 has done a number of great projects in our area, and we think that they've done the best that they can to try to align with the master plan due to the constraints that they've got on that site and with the lease at Applebee's and other issues that have come up. So we are really excited to see this. We think it'll be an asset for the neighborhood, and we'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak in favor? Would anyone like to speak in opposition tonight? Let the record show I see no one else moving to speak. We will close the public hearing. Thank you. I would accept a motion to continue the public hearing. Both public hearings to June 9th. That's the motion. If you would be in favor, roll call.
Roll call. Bynum.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia. Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley. Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you very much. That does bring us to a blue sheet item, our third blue sheet item. At the Standing Committee on Monday, there was a discussion about the grant applications for the casino grant, Schlitterbahn grant application that we're in the midst of now. There are two issues. The first is there was a desire by that committee, and I've spoken to folks who were at the committee on Monday, in light of the tragedy that the police department had faced. The police department is working on opening a foundation. Now, they've been working on that for a long time, long before this latest tragedy, and they were coming forward with just an update. There was a desire expressed by the commissioners there to want to show some support for that foundation, particularly in light of the recent tragedy. And one of the suggestions was to reopen or adjust the current 2016 grant fund application process. I would discourage that. I have a possible solution, talking to some of the folks from there, that might work out, that if people are in favor of that, we could move in that direction tonight. though I'm glad to have a full dialogue about it if you would so choose. My recommendation is this, that we not change the current process that we're doing for a lot of reasons, but we keep the process on track for 2016. But that my recommendation might be that we set aside, instead of $750,000 from Schlitterbahn, we only put $695,000 into this year's pot to be distributed, and we move $55,000, which would represent about $5,000 for each of the 11 of us, to set aside and move to next year's allocation, so that when the police department does have their 501c3 formed, then that money would be eligible if they applied, and if they were eligible, that we could allocate that money as seed money for their foundation. That would show, I think, our commitment to supporting the foundation and our heart for wanting to do something in response to the recent tragedies. So that's a suggested way forward, and then we would continue with our process as it's already moving forward with the applications we already have. We would simply be allocating as a group $55,000 less this year and committing that money next year. So that's a suggestion. I'll be glad to make that in form of a motion. But I'm also open to other ideas. So I want the record to show wait, why didn't you say that when everybody was here? Mike Kane liked my idea.
I waited till they left.
All right. So there is a motion and a second. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification on this. If we do this, about 55,000, does that mean that the entire 55, though, would only go to this foundation?
We would be, now we could, my hesitation to earmark it is they haven't completed their process. So I'd like to move it forward to next year. And I think the intent is, and we're all going to be here next year because there's not an election between now and then, so it'll be the same set of commissioners, is the intent is for it to go to that foundation, but that they would need to complete their process before. I don't want to give money to an entity that doesn't yet exist. I think giving it to the next year's process, we know that will exist. And then if for whatever reason the police department comes back the next year and says, you know, we decided that was a bad idea, we're not going to do it, we would still be able to allocate that money in the same process that we are now. But I think we will remember next year that our intent, and I think we can add that to the motion, our intent is for it to go to the foundation should they complete their process.
My only concern about it is that with the process that we have now, each of us is free to give to an organization or not. And I certainly want to support our public servants. That's the only reservation I had. It almost sounds like we are determining in advance for each one of us that that money is going to go there. As opposed to allowing them to be, what is it, considered, what was the other alternative?
Well, there was an alternative that was suggested by the committee that we would extend the application deadline for this round. I think we would need to extend that for everyone. The dilemma is they're not a 501c3 to even be able to apply in this round. And so it would create, I think, more difficulty to try to open up this, to try to change this year's process at this late date than it would to simply, if we reallocate that to next year, I would assume that every commissioner would still have the right to choose if they would like to put that 5,000 into this application or not. I think you would still retain that right, and then if you didn't, you could allocate it some other way. I think that would be, we would just be adding that money to next year's pot and not dealing with it this year.
Okay, so we are in effect lowering the amount available for each one of us for this year.
By $5,000, that's right.
By $5,000, okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to get more clarity, it seems to me that the Schlitterbahn money, which was $750,000, the way that it was initially presented to us was that that they wanted us to allocate, I think, $50,000 towards a specific organization, Urban Scholastic Center, and another amount of money towards another organization. And we, it seems that during the dialogue, we came up with the opinion that everyone should apply. So if in fact now it looks like we're reversing our decision overall as a commission by allowing this. Now, having said that, I'm in full support of finding a way to support a foundation for the police department, but I wanted to make sure that it's equitable and fair to everyone in that regard.
Thank you. Commissioner Bynum?
This is why we wanted to bring it to the full commission, because this is part of the conversation that we had at the standing committee level, and we felt like since we had created an application process and that the commission during the discussion of the dollars had agreed that we would allocate where those dollars go. We, like Commissioner Johnson said, I think we all like the idea of finding a way to support our future police foundation, but we did want this to be a discussion among the whole commission. If I'm doing my math correctly, it would leave this year $1,195,000 and therefore $108,636 per commissioner, if I did my math correctly.
I think that's correct. Commissioner Murguia?
So I'm very concerned about all the changes over the very short period of time that we've had the casino grant fund. Originally, when that money was worked into the development agreement, all of the commissioners at that time agreed this was finally a great way to get money to the neighborhood grassroots organizations that are out there working really hard. Now it's, with the new changes, I'm seeing in the application process, I'm seeing the unified government departments apply for money. I'm seeing universities apply for money. I'm seeing school districts apply for money, when really the discussion was to get it to all of the grassroots organizations. I totally support the unified government, or this, giving $50,000 to the police foundation. But I think that should be our job as commissioners, and that money should come from our general fund, not from the casino grant money. I think it sends a very wrong message to people about what the casino grant money was intended to be used for. And pretty soon, before you know it, there'll be this situation, there'll be another situation, there'll be another, and pretty soon we're just going to see another pot of money that is for the unified government to use for operations personnel or some sort of issue like that. I've said from the beginning, we need to support public safety. This is a big issue. This foundation should have been set up a long time ago. We should have stepped up a long time ago to help them. It should come from our general fund, and we should make a major statement about that. And we should then use the casino grant money with what we intended to use it for, which is for grassroots initiative, those people that have a difficult time accessing grant money from larger foundations. Some of our neighborhood groups who struggle with capacity, this is their one and only opportunity to have an impact in their neighborhood. So I just want to be very clear. I am a huge advocate of public safety. I absolutely think we should give that money to the foundation and support that, but it should come from the general fund, not the casino grant fund.
Thank you. Commissioner Markley?
So, Commissioner Bynum's right. We sort of started having this discussion Monday, and then we decided the full commission needed to be involved. I guess what I'm hearing is that we don't want to make changes to this year because we're concerned about how that looks procedurally, which is, again, part of the discussion that we had on Monday as well. I guess what I'm thinking